400 years ago, humans dispatched cockroaches to Mars with the aim of making the planet habitable. Fast forward to the year 2597, Earth's population has surged beyond its sustainable capacity. Scientists, foreseeing this dilemma, hatched a plan to transform Mars into a suitable habitat for humans. Their initial step involved cultivating basic organisms like moss on Mars's surface, intending to raise temperatures and create a livable atmosphere. To disseminate the moss planet-wide, scientists engineered cockroaches and sent them to Mars. In the present day, a man named Shokichi and a woman named Nanao find themselves fleeing from the authorities due to murder accusations. A tense pursuit by the police ensues, but their predicament takes an unexpected turn when Dr. Honda arrives in a levitating vehicle. Dr. Honda presents them with an opportunity to expunge their criminal records, contingent on their participation in a Mars mission. Their mission? To venture to the Red Planet and exterminate the cockroach population, clearing the way for human habitation. To prepare for this undertaking, they will also undergo a minor medical procedure to equip them for the mission. Shokichi harbors deep reservations about placing his trust in Dr. Honda and senses an unsettling aura surrounding the deal. Consequently, he rejects the offer. However, Nana becomes acutely aware that their options are severely limited, and this represents a rare opportunity to reclaim their lives. She ultimately accepts the offer, but Shokichi cannot fathom letting Nana embark on this mission alone, so he decides to join as well. 2 years later, both of them have undergone rigorous training and now find themselves on board a spaceship bound for Mars. It quickly becomes evident that the majority of their fellow passengers are a motley crew, consisting of thugs, criminals, and societal outcasts who have been given a second chance through this mission. Among their crewmates are Jim Ikiro, a former terrorist, Lee, a known serial killer, Tezuka Sarai, the proprietor of a prostitution ring, Maria, an illegal immigrant, and former Yakuza members Yoshikani and Toramaru Moriki. Leading the expedition are Captain Dojima and Obari. As the crew lands on the Martian surface in the ship named Bugs 2, they deploy missiles designed to eliminate the nearby cockroach threat. Captain Dojima then organizes the entire crew into pairs for the mission. Surprisingly, Moriki declines her partnership with Yoshikani and instead requests to be paired with Ikiro. Amidst the tension, Captain Dojima locates the remnants of the earlier mission, Bugs 1. Outside, Jim and Maria were embarking on an exploration of the region. Jim couldn't help but wonder why there were no cockroach carcasses to be found anywhere. Just then, Jim's curiosity led him to a startling discovery. He spotted enormous humanoid cockroach-like creatures, each wielding formidable clubs. In a swift move, he grabbed Maria and concealed themselves. Meanwhile, Shokichi and Nanao also encountered one of these creatures. They attempted to establish a friendly connection, but the creature moved astonishingly fast, abruptly snapping Nanao's neck, tragically ending her life. Devastated and furious, Shokichi shouted at the creature, but it swiftly retreated. Returning to the ship with Nanao's lifeless body, Shokichi learned from Ichiro that Moriki had suffered a similar fate at the hands of these creatures. The entire crew demanded that Captain Dojima reveal the truth about these enigmatic beings. Captain Dojima finally unveiled the unsettling truth. The cockroaches sent to Mars 400 years ago had proven to be far more resilient and adaptable than scientists had anticipated. Exposed to direct solar radiation and extreme cold, they underwent rapid evolution, compressing millions of years of development into a mere 400 years, ultimately transforming into these formidable creatures. These beings were known as Terra Formars. Just then, a holographic projection of Dr. Honda materializes before the crew. He proceeds to inform them that, in preparation for their battle against the evolved cockroaches, each of them has undergone a unique transformation. During their medical procedures, their DNA was intentionally blended with that of specific insects. This fusion grants them the extraordinary abilities of these insects on a human scale. To activate these newfound powers, they need only receive an injection. Dojima expresses his regret to Shokichi for withholding this truth earlier, revealing that he was ordered to do so. Sarai, on the other hand, suggests that they abandon the mission and return to Earth. In that very moment, a massive terraformer approaches their ship. Lee proposes an alternative plan: to confront the cockroaches here and now, using their newfound abilities to overthrow the deceitful government upon their return to Earth. With determination, he steps out to engage the terraformer. Lee administers the injection to himself, causing his insect powers to manifest. His DNA has been intertwined with that of ground beetles, granting him the ability to unleash a lethal venom, now scaled to human proportions. Lee launches an attack on the terraformer with his venomous spray, briefly gaining the upper hand. However, the terraformer manages to recover from the burns and delivers a fatal blow, piercing through Lee's torso and ending his life. The terraformer boards the ship, and the entire crew prepares their injections. However, Captain Dojima insists on demonstrating how to confront the terraformers. He administers the injection, blending his DNA with that of a bullet ant, and swiftly defeats the terraformer with a single strike. Just at that moment, an onslaught of thousands of terraformers descends upon them. Saray questions aloud why they are under attack, to which Maria responds that humans often kill cockroaches without reason, suggesting the terraformers may be acting similarly. Obari attempts to launch the ship to return home, but inexplicably, the ship's operating system malfunctions. Captain Dojima instructs the crew to head toward another ship with a compatible operating system, intending to use it for their escape. Meanwhile, he volunteers to serve as a decoy to divert the terraformers' attention. Shokichi, Jim, and Ikuro all offer to stay behind with him, but Captain Dojima only permits Ikuro to remain. Shokichi takes a moment to pay his respects at Nanao's body before joining the rest of the crew on an escape vehicle. Tezuka injects himself and transforms into a fire-breathing insect, propelling the vehicle at incredible speeds as it plows through the masses of terraformers. Meanwhile, Captain Dojima and Ikiro put their plan into action to entice the terraformers onto the spaceship. Their objective: to expel all the oxygen, rendering them unable to breathe and causing their demise. Unfortunately, this plan also spells doom for Dojima and Ichiro. On the escape vehicle, Jim confides in Shokichi, revealing that he's aware Shokichi is not a genuine criminal and had merely shouldered the blame for Nanao's crime. Shokichi had come to Nanao's defense when she was being harassed by a man, leading to a chaotic altercation. In the midst of the chaos, Nanao ended up stabbing the man, but Shokichi took responsibility for the murder. Curious, Shokichi inquires about Jim's presence on Mars, to which Jim responds that he's just an ordinary individual, a nobody. He explains that he'd had only one friend in his life, and she tragically succumbed to a pandemic, leaving him with nothing and no one back on Earth. Jim commits to supporting Shokichi in seeking vengeance for Nanao and ensuring she receives a proper burial. Just as they were about to embark on their journey, they suddenly spotted an approaching wave. However, upon closer inspection, they realized that this formidable surge was composed of thousands of terraformers. Thanks to Tezuka's extraordinary ability to emit fire from the rear of their vehicle, they managed to power through this wave. Yet their relief was short-lived as they soon spotted an even larger second wave hurtling towards them. To confront this imminent threat, Sor and Maria made a bold decision to inject themselves with a combination of two distinct beetle species, causing them to mutate and develop immensely sturdy armor. Thanks to this newfound protection, their vehicle successfully weathered the second wave as well. Unfortunately, in their attempt to escape, the vehicle toppled over, ejecting Tezuka, Sorai, and Maria. Inside the vehicle, everyone was knocked unconscious, but the vehicle continued on autopilot. Tragically, Sorai, Maria, and Tezuka fell victim to the relentless terraformers. Meanwhile, back on Bugs 2, Dojima and Ichiro proceeded with their plan to expel oxygen, resulting in the demise of all terraformers inside, along with 2 crew members. Shokichi, Jim, and Obari boarded the Bugs 1 ship and discovered that it was transmitting a signal outward. Yoshikani and Torimaru were under attack from terraformers, and in the midst of the chaos, a terraformer contacted Dr. Honda, who instructed them to execute their hidden agenda. On the other hand, Shokichi, Jim, and Obari decided to inject themselves with their respective unique DNA modifications, a fusion of an Asian giant hornet, desert locust, and praying mantis. After a fierce battle, they successfully vanquished all the terraformers. In the aftermath, they noticed the presence of pyramids behind the ship, leaving them perplexed about the existence of such structures on Mars. Back on Bugs 2, the talking terraformer boards the ship and restores the oxygen. Just as it's about to shoot Captain Dojima, Dojima demands to know its identity. Surprisingly, it turns out to be Morikai disguised as a terraformer. Ichiro had lied about her death at the start of the mission. Morikai's DNA had been spliced with that of an emerald cockroach wasp, an insect capable of secreting a toxin that controls a cockroach's brain. This fusion allows Morikai to control the terraformers. Morikai proceeds to kill Captain Dojima and then sprays some water on Ikoro. Ikoro's DNA had been mixed with that of a sleeping chironomid, a unique insect that can survive in a vacuum by entering a hibernation state. To wake it up, all you need is some water. Thus, Ikoro awakens when Morikai throws water on him. Together, they place a giant terraformer egg aboard the ship and prepare to depart for Earth. Dr. Honda elucidates to Shokichi, Jim, and Obari that the original plan had always been for just Ikaro and Mariki to return to Earth with a terraformer egg. The purpose behind this decision was their intention to study the creatures on Earth and ultimately assemble an army of them for Japan. The remainder of the group had been dispatched to assess the combat capabilities of the terraformers. It was Ikaro who prevented the premature launch of the Bugs operating system. When Obari inquires about the pyramids on Mars, Dr. Honda succinctly responds that humans didn't actively transport the cockroaches to Mars. Rather, they evolved there independently. This is also why researching them and their evolution holds such paramount importance. As they prepare to take off in Bugs 2, the group shares their personal stories and motivations with each other. Ikaro, for instance, had been a struggling researcher on Earth, desperately seeking a grant to support his 6 siblings and ailing mother. Tragically, he was unjustly accused of rape by a fellow colleague, which led to his departure from the university. Meanwhile, Morikai harbored the simple plan of returning to Earth to take command of the army of terraformers crafted by Japan. Her goal was world domination. Just as she pondered her strategy, the terraformer egg suddenly hatched, revealing 2 formidable terraformers. Mariki swiftly injected them with her toxin, but to her astonishment, they had already evolved to resist it. In a ruthless twist, they killed Mariki and signaled to their comrades on the ground. The entire horde of terraformers began converging towards the spaceship, their combined weight bringing it crashing down. Ikiru, in a desperate bid for survival, injected himself but was swiftly knocked unconscious. Shokichi, Jim, and Obari sought to return to Earth via Bugs 2, but their path was obstructed by hundreds of terraformers. With resolve, they injected themselves and engaged in a fierce battle. Initially, they fought valiantly, eliminating numerous terraformers. However, the tide turned when a couple of newborns, possessing exceptional fighting skills, emerged. These newborns killed Obari, and Jim realized a single injection was insufficient. He injected himself a second time to further mutate, with Shokichi following suit. The battle raged on, but the second mutation proved futile, and Jim's multiple injections made him ill. In his weakened state, Jim confided in Shokichi that he had nothing left for him on Earth, and that his only will to live stemmed from his growing affection for Shokichi and Obari while defending an incapacitated Jim. Shokichi was nearly killed by a terraformer, but at that critical moment, a mutated Nana appeared, covered in webs and dispersing a flammable powder over the terraformers. Jim warned that a spark would cause an explosion and instructed Shokichi to flee. However, Shokichi sprouted wings and flew towards Nana. A terraformer fired a gun, triggering the explosion. Jim sacrificed himself to shield Shokichi from the blast, while Nana was consumed by it. As the dust settled, Shokichi awoke to find Jim had transformed into a locust, a consequence of excessive injections, and was dying. With his last breath, Jim urged Shokichi to return to Earth and live, as it was what Nana would have wanted. Shokichi made his way to the spaceship. Enraged, he confronted Ikiro for his betrayal, but they agreed to settle their score upon reaching Earth. As they prepared for takeoff, some terraformers readied themselves to stop them. However, The one Shokichi had beaten into submission earlier held them back out of fear. Meanwhile, Dr. Honda learned that the video feed from the Bugs 2 mission had been leaked to the world, exposing their inhuman actions against the crew. Realizing he would be blamed by the Japanese government, he decided to go into hiding. He killed his assistant, who tried to intervene, and fled. Ikiro resolved to take on the Japanese government upon returning to Earth for exploiting them in this mission, while Shokichi vowed to build a tomb for Nana and then return to Mars to eliminate the Terra Formars for good.